Right now, the PJM interconnection, the grid powering 67 million people across 13 states, is running 6,623 megawatts short. That is a shortfall large enough to leave 6.6 million homes in the dark. With system costs projected to hit $178 billion by 2035, states like Pennsylvania are now facing 60% rate hikes to keep the lights on. While our physical wires fail, our digital architecture is also reaching a breaking point. 93% of consumers say they will walk away from a brand that mishandles their data. Meanwhile, 66% of IT professionals now identify data sovereignty as their primary corporate worry. These failures share a specific underlying pattern. Whether we are looking at a transformer on a pole or a data packet in the cloud, the systems we rely on have lost their connection to the people they were built to serve. We can name what is missing: indigeneity. In an architectural sense, indigeneity is a rootedness to source. It is the relationship between an individual and a specific place, maintained over generations. When that anchor of indigeneity is lost, high-level governance becomes incoherent. The grid collapses because it cannot see the households it feeds, and data becomes a liability because it has no point of origin. Without a ground wire, both systems cascade into failure. The disconnection began in 1835 with a Belgian statistician named Adolphe Quetelet. He invented a concept called the average man, believing that by averaging large numbers of people together, he could discover the mathematical laws that govern society. This logic turned individuals into data points in a ledger. Once you were averaged into a demographic category or a mortality rate, you no longer had standing as a person. You are simply a representative of a type. Fast forward to 1991. Tim Berners-Lee built the World Wide Web to connect information. But while he connected data, he did not provide a way to connect value or attest to a point of origin. Because the web was designed at CERN, an environment focused on subatomic particles rather than human communities, it inherited Quetelet's structural flaw. It treated humans as statistical averages, moving information across ledgers without ever asking where that information originated. This created the era of data exhaust. Since the system cannot witness you as a person, it must use your clicks and scrolls to infer your identity. It surveils your patterns because it lacks the architecture to ask for your truth. The financial cost of this missing link is massive. Billions of dollars in community benefit and disaster mitigation capital are already budgeted by hospitals and municipalities, but they remain trapped because the system cannot accurately identify where that capital needs to go. A system built on surveillance and inference cannot route resources effectively. You cannot audit your way to human truth if your architecture was designed to ignore the individual. The sovereignty engine is a protocol that replaces inference with attestation. It allows institutions and individuals to co-validate reality. Instead of the system guessing who you are, it creates a circuit where you attest to your own needs and origin. To see how this works, take a workforce time deficit of 47 minutes. In a cold state, using only statistical averages, the system assumes those 47 minutes are simply a commute. It sees a demographic, not a life. But when that data is attested, the meaning changes. A caregiver speaks, and the system learns that those 47 minutes are the gap between putting an elderly mother to bed and answering work emails. The math now reflects a human reality. The protocol then translates this truth back into institutional metrics. It shows a hospital that readmission risk has dropped by 12%, and a utility that bad debt forecasts have decreased by 8%. The system cannot return the 47 minutes, but it closes the economic circuit by meeting human meaning with mathematical precision. Fairness in the system is not a policy managed from the top down. It is driven by mathematical weights encoded directly into the protocol. The protocol uses anchor weights to correct historical blind spots, where value was extracted but never recorded. This 1788 ledger of enslaved people is raw proof of unrecorded human value. The system applies a multiplier here to correct that ledger, starting at the point of origin. Indigenous nations and local watersheds are also treated as anchor weights, because their sovereignty and ecological health were extracted long before the digital age. They are set as critical baseline thresholds that the system must witness to remain coherent. Other factors like gender bias or unseen care networks are treated as emerging weights. They begin at 0 and only increase as individuals attest to them, allowing the system to discover what it has been missing in real time. This creates a modular cascade. The protocol doesn't need a global consensus to act, only a witness threshold. Once 67% of a specific cohort attests to the same reality across different ledgers, the protocol recognizes it as a confirmed truth, and the circuit automatically closes. The results are a 36-to-1 return on investment. The system identifies $34.2 billion in trapped defensive capital and routes just $25 million of it to close the survival gap for that entire cohort. This requires no global coordination to begin. You simply start where you are and provide the vital data. Systemic coherence and a mutual rise can only